Hey everyone, if you enjoy my stories and want to see more content like this, please consider subscribing to my channel. I'd love to have you join the community. Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to stay up to date on my latest videos. It was a sunny Saturday morning in our cozy Notting Hill flat, the kind of day where the sky was a perfect cerulean blue and the streets smelled like freshly baked croissants wafting from the bakery down the road. I, Margaret, a retired schoolteacher with a penchant for order and a slight obsession with tidy kitchens, was busy sorting through bills at the small wooden table in our kitchen. The pension envelope, a monthly ritual I handled with care, lay open next to a stack of recipes I'd clipped from _ the London Evening Standard _. My 22-year-old daughter, Sophie, burst into the kitchen like a whirlwind, her curly brown hair bouncing with excitement. Mum, I need money. The girls and I are spontaneing a trip to Barcelona, she announced, eyes sparkling with the kind of reckless adventure only young people believe they're entitled to. Before I could blink, she'd swiped the pension envelope from the counter, tucking it into her backpack with a mischievous grin. Sophie, that's for, well, my pension, I said, half laughing, half stern. Don't worry, Mum. I'll pay you back with tapas. Besides, you've always said I should live a little, she countered, already halfway out the door. I sighed, a mix of exasperation and pride. Sophie had always been the kind to leap first and think later. All right, but be safe. Don't spend it all on sangria, I called out as she vanished into the hallway, the front door shutting with a cheerful slam. I shook my head, smiling. The pension money wasn't a fortune, but it was mine, meant for quiet things like books and maybe a trip to the seaside. In the back seat, Sophie giggled, holding the container at arm's length. This is the most excitement I've had all month, Mum. We arrived at a leafy corner of Regent's Park, near the lake where swans glide under the winter sun. With gloves on and the towel draped over the container, we found a bushy spot away from joggers. Sophie opened the lid with a flourish, the spider scaped out, pausing as if to nod thanks, then vanished into the undergrowth. As we watched it disappear, Sophie nudged me. Mum, maybe the fridge was trying to tell us something. Like, clean it more often? I laughed, looping an arm around her shoulders. Or maybe it was a sign to enjoy the trip. You better send me tapas pics. The rest of the day was a blur of giggles and fridge scrubbing. We tossed expired jars, wiped down shelves, and stocked it with fresh fruits and less experimental leftovers. By evening, the kitchen smelled of lemon and calm. Sophie left for Barcelona with a lighter heart, and a promise to be careful, and I settled into the quiet flat, curious about what other surprises London had in store. I made myself a cup of Earl Grey, opened a book, and let the sounds of Notting Hill drift in, the bus on the corner, a violinist in the square, the distant chime of a church bell. A week later, Sophie returned with sunburned cheeks and stories of Gaudia's Sagrada Familia, flamenco nights, and laughter-filled tapas crawls. Over dinner, she pulled out a small gift, a fridge magnet shaped like a playful spider. Mum, for the next unexpected guest, she said with a grin. I hugged her, feeling grateful for the laughter, the trip, and even the surprise in the fridge. It's perfect, I said. And I think the pension's safe now. We laughed, and the night wrapped around us like a cozy blanket. Maybe, I thought, the spider had been a reminder, life's unpredictable, so grab the moments, and clean the fridge. Thanks for watching, viewers. With Sophie gone, I decided to tackle the kitchen's overdue tidy-up. I started with the fridge, a relic of the 1990s with a stubborn hinge and a tendency to hum at odd hours. It was a bit of a mess, leftovers from last week's roast chicken, a jar of dubious pickles, and a science experiment involving an open yogurt that had developed its own ecosystem. I was halfway through sorting it when Sophie screamed from inside the fridge. I spun around, heart racing. Sophie stood frozen, staring into the fridge like it was a horror movie prop. "Mom, what is that?" she shrieked, her voice an octave higher than usual. I peered in, following her gaze. Nestled between the wilted lettuce and a jar of mayonnaise was a rather large, rather hairy tarantula. Its 8 legs were splayed out, and it seemed to be watching us with an unnerving stillness. I let out a shriek too, jumping back so quickly I bumped into the counter. How did it get in here?" I demanded, my mind racing through the possibilities. Had we left the door open? Was it a stowaway from the market? Sophie's face was pale, her eyes wide as saucers. I opened the door and it was just staring at me. We stood there, laughing nervously, unsure if we should be terrified or amused. It was clear the spider was as startled as we were. "Okay, Operation Spider Eviction," I declared, grabbing a large plastic container and a thick towel. Sophie hovered behind me, eyes averted. With careful maneuvers, we coaxed the tarantula into the container, its fuzzy legs tapping the glass as it surveyed its temporary prison. Sophie insisted on a ceremonial goodbye, complete with a tiny bon voyage note she scribbled on a post-it. "We can't just release it in the flat," I said, chuckling. "Regent's Park, here we come." The drizzle had stopped by the time we ventured out, the London air crisp and fresh as we hailed a taxi on Portobello Road.